Good evening, and welcome back, sleepless historian. Tonight, we will drift together into one of the oldest stories ever told, a story carved in clay, whispered through the sands of time, and guarded by temples older than the pyramids. This is the story of the Anunnaki, the ancient gods of Sumer and Babylon, the divine assembly of heaven and earth. As you listen tonight, let your body become still. Feel the weight of the blankets over you. Let the air in the room settle, and the rhythm of your breath slow down. You are safe here, and together we'll wander through a time before time, when myth and memory were the same, when the night sky was filled with gods, and the stars themselves seemed to whisper secrets. Before history began, there was Sumer, between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates, in the warm heart of Mesopotamia. Human beings built the first cities. They learned to tame the rivers, to plant and harvest, to record their stories on soft clay tablets. And as they looked to the heavens, they imagined beings who ruled over them, powerful, distant, and yet somehow familiar. These were the Anunnaki, the offspring of Anu, the children of the sky. To the ancient Sumerians, the Anunnaki were not legends. They were reality, as real as the rising sun and the flowing rivers. They governed destiny. They shaped creation. They decided when floods would come, when kings would fall, and when life itself would begin anew. In every city of Sumer, a temple stood as a bridge between the human and the divine. At the center of each temple was a ziggurat, a great tower of sun-baked brick, rising like a mountain in the flat desert plain. To climb a ziggurat was to ascend toward heaven, one step closer to the realm of the gods. And within those sacred walls, priests offered bread and honey, milk and incense to honor the Anunnaki who watched from the stars. Tonight, as you rest, you will hear their story, not as conspiracy, not as fantasy, but as the ancient people themselves told it. Slowly, with reverence, in the quiet language of devotion. So take a slow, deep breath. Let it fill your lungs. Then exhale softly. Let the world grow distant. You're now standing in the cradle of civilization. The air is dry. The horizon glows faintly red with the last light of the setting sun. All around you stretches the vast plain of Sumer. In the distance, a city rises, its walls built of mud and reed, its towers catching the dying light. The sound of the river murmurs in the dark. Somewhere, a priest chants softly, a prayer to Enki, god of wisdom and water. The words are old, and though you do not understand them, they seem to vibrate in your chest, deep and soothing. And so begins our long, slow journey into the age of the Anunnaki. Long ago, perhaps 6,000 years in the past, the land between the rivers was wild and untamed. The floods came each spring, washing over the plains with both destruction and renewal. Yet in that floodplain, among the reeds and the mud, humankind found a rhythm. They built canals to guide the waters. They shaped the soil into fields. They planted barley and wheat and watched the green shoots rise from the earth. Slowly, a pattern emerged, the pattern of civilization. The first towns appeared small clusters of huts made from mud brick and straw. Over generations they grew. Villages became cities, and the people began to organize, not just for survival, but for worship. They looked at the heavens above, and they saw order dash dash. Stars moving in steady paths, the moon returning each month, the sun reborn every morning. If the heavens have order, they thought, so too must the earth. And so they built temples, the first sacred places, homes for the gods they believed governed all things. At first, these gods were forces of nature: storm, river, sun, and wind. But as stories grew, those forces took names, and those names took form. They became the Anunnaki, divine rulers of heaven and earth, each with their own power and personality. To the Sumerians, the Anunnaki were not distant, but intimately involved in every aspect of life. The harvest depended on them. The birth of a child was a gift from them. Even dreams were said to come through their will. The city of Eridu, the oldest of all, was said to be founded by Enki, the god of wisdom, and the fresh waters of the deep. His temple stood at the edge of the marshes, where fishermen and priests alike came to give thanks. In the quiet morning hours, smoke would rise from the temple altars, carrying prayers into the sky. To stand there, they believed, was to stand at the boundary between worlds, between men and gods, between earth and heaven. The Anunnaki, they said, had once descended to earth to establish order. They divided the land, assigned duties to kings and priests, and then returned to the heavens, leaving mankind to uphold the sacred laws they had given. In those early centuries, every aspect of life revolved around this divine order. The temple was not just a house of worship, it was the center of the city, the storehouse of grain, the court of justice, the keeper of records. Priests served both the gods and the people. They measured time by the stars, and they recorded the cycles of the moon on clay tablets. These tablets, the first writing, were gifts of Enki himself, who was said to have taught humankind how to read, how to count, and how to name the world. In time, the scribes would use those same symbols to record myths, stories of creation, of floods, of divine councils and mortal kings. And in each of those stories, the Anunnaki appeared, sometimes as creators, sometimes as judges, sometimes as silent watchers, shaping the fate of mankind. The clay tablets that survive today tell us that the Anunnaki were 50 in number. They were the great assembly, gods of heaven, gods of earth, gods of the underworld. They met in council to decide destinies. They could bless, or they could curse. And though their power was immense, they were not beyond emotion. Like humans, they loved and grieved, they grew jealous, and proud. In them, the Sumerians saw a mirror of their own world, vast, complex, and unpredictable. The priests who tended their temples saw the gods not as tyrants, but as part of the same great balance that governed all things. Every ritual, every offering, every whispered prayer was a way to keep that balance intact. Because to the Sumerians, the universe was a delicate harmony. If the gods were pleased, the rivers would rise just enough to water the fields. The winds would blow gently. The crops would grow tall and golden. But if the balance broke, if humans grew careless or prideful, the world would tremble. The storms would come. The rivers would rage. And the Anunnaki would turn their faces away. Now, as you rest in the quiet of your room, imagine that faraway time. The air is warm. The stars are bright over the plains. In the distance, the temple of Eridu glows softly in the dark, its torches flickering in the night wind. You hear the sound of water flowing through the canals, the rustle of reeds along the river banks, and the echo of a slow chant carried by the breeze. The words are ancient, a hymn to the Anunnaki, guardians of heaven and earth. And as you listen, your breath slows. Your eyes grow heavy. You drift with the river of time back to the age when gods still walked among men. As the night deepens over the plains of Sumer, we turn our gaze upward to the vast expanse of the sky. There, among the countless stars, dwelt Anu, the Sky Father. Anu was the highest of the Anunnaki, the ruler of heaven, the one whose will shaped the cosmos. To the Sumerians, Anu was more than a god. He was the principle of order itself, the invisible hand that guided both gods and men. They imagined him seated upon a throne of light, surrounded by stars, his eyes reflecting the quiet eternity of the heavens. And from his presence, the other Anunnaki took their place. Gods of earth, air, water, and underworld, each assigned a role in the delicate balance of life. Together, they formed the Council of 50, meeting in divine assembly, to govern destiny, to pass judgment, to watch over the unfolding story of humankind. Anu's voice was said to be as soft as a whisper, yet as powerful as the wind that sweeps across the deserts. He did not act alone. he delegated. Enlil, his son, became the god of the air and storms. Enki, the clever, ruled over water and wisdom. Inanna, the queen, held the paths of love, war, and destiny. Together, they enacted the will of Anu upon the earth below, ensuring the rivers flowed, the seasons turned, and the cities thrived. To the people of Sumer, these gods were not distant abstractions. They were intimately involved in daily life. When a king was crowned, it was with the blessing of the Anunnaki. When a flood rose too high, it was their judgment. When crops failed, it was their reminder that balance must be preserved. Temples across the cities were designed to honor them. Each detail carefully planned, each ritual performed to maintain harmony. The priesthood was the bridge between mortals and the divine. They observed the stars, interpreted dreams, and recorded every sign. They knew the Anunnaki's patterns, and they taught the people to follow them. For in the beginning the world was fragile, and the favor of the gods was everything. The Divine Assembly. In the heart of the heavens, Anu convened the great assembly of gods. Each god had a purpose, a domain over which they held sway. The council was not merely symbolic. It represented the laws of nature, the cycles of life and death, the invisible threads that connected the earth and sky. Enlil, the god of air and storms, could raise the winds or calm the skies. Enki, the water god, could bring fertility to the fields or flood to the plains. Inanna, the fierce and wise, influenced kings, love, and war, weaving the fates of mortals and gods alike. The people of Sumer understood that the gods' decisions were subtle, felt in the slow rise of the river, the turning of the seasons, the success of the harvest. And so they prayed, not loudly, not desperately, but with measured, deliberate devotion. Their chants echoed across the ziggurats, drifting into the night, soft as the wind over the desert plains. And above them, Anu watched, silent, patient, eternal. Enki and the gift of wisdom. Among the Anunnaki, Enki held a special place. Known as the god of water, wisdom, and creation, he was often called the most benevolent. His temple in Eridu was a place of learning, where scribes recorded the earliest stories. It was said that Enki taught humans many things: how to build canals, how to plant crops, how to read the symbols of the world. He was clever, patient, and sometimes mischievous. Through him, humans learned to understand the God's will and to participate in the cosmic balance. Enki's wisdom was not forced upon mankind. It was a gift slowly, carefully given to ensure that humans could survive, grow, and remember the divine. And as you listen tonight, imagine standing at the edge of Eridu, feeling the cool water of the canals on your fingers, watching the sun reflect off the mud brick walls, listening to the quiet whispers of prayers rising into the sky. This is the world of the Anunnaki, a world of order, of balance, of gods and men intertwined. As the night deepens over the plains of Sumer, we turn our gaze upward to the vast expanse of the sky. There, among the countless stars, dwelt Anu, the Sky Father. Anu was the highest of the Anunnaki, the ruler of heaven, the one whose will shaped the cosmos. To the Sumerians, Anu was more than a god. He was the principle of order itself, the invisible hand that guided both gods and men. They imagined him seated upon a throne of light, surrounded by stars, his eyes reflecting the quiet eternity of the heavens. And from his presence, the other Anunnaki took their place. Gods of earth, air, water, and underworld, each assigned a role in the delicate balance of life. Together, they formed the Council of 50, meeting in divine assembly, to govern destiny, to pass judgment, to watch over the unfolding story of humankind. Anu's voice was said to be as soft as a whisper, yet as powerful as the wind that sweeps across the deserts. He did not act alone. He delegated. Enlil, his son, became the god of the air and storms. Enki, the clever, ruled over water and wisdom. Inanna, the queen, held the paths of love, war, and destiny. Together, they enacted the will of Anu upon the earth below, ensuring the rivers flowed, the seasons turned, and the cities thrived. To the people of Sumer, these gods were not distant abstractions. They were intimately involved in daily life. When a king was crowned, it was with the blessing of the Anunnaki. When a flood rose too high, it was their judgment. When crops failed, it was their reminder that balance must be preserved. Temples across the cities were designed to honor them. Each detail carefully planned, each ritual performed to maintain harmony. The priesthood was the bridge between mortals and the divine. They observed the stars, interpreted dreams, and recorded every sign. They knew the Anunnaki's patterns, and they taught the people to follow them. For in the beginning the world was fragile, and the favor of the gods was everything. The Divine Assembly. In the heart of the heavens, Anu convened the great assembly of gods. Each god had a purpose, a domain over which they held sway. The council was not merely symbolic. It represented the laws of nature, the cycles of life and death, the invisible threads that connected the earth and sky. Enlil, the god of air and storms, could raise the winds or calm the skies. Enki, the water god, could bring fertility to the fields or flood to the plains. Inanna, the fierce and wise, influenced kings, love, and war, weaving the fates of mortals and gods alike. The people of Sumer understood that the gods' decisions were subtle, felt in the slow rise of the river, the turning of the seasons, the success of the harvest. And so they prayed, not loudly, not desperately, but with measured, deliberate devotion. Their chants echoed across the ziggurats, drifting into the night, soft as the wind over the desert plains. And above them, Anu watched, silent, patient, eternal. Enki and the gift of wisdom. Among the Anunnaki, Enki held a special place. Known as the god of water, wisdom, and creation, he was often called the most benevolent. His temple in Eridu was a place of learning where scribes recorded the earliest stories. It was said that Enki taught humans many things: how to build canals, how to plant crops, how to read the symbols of the world. He was clever, patient, and sometimes mischievous. Through him, humans learned to understand the God's will and to participate in the cosmic balance. Enki's wisdom was not forced upon mankind. It was a gift slowly, carefully given to ensure that humans could survive, grow, and remember the divine. And as you listen tonight, imagine standing at the edge of Eridu, feeling the cool water of the canals on your fingers, watching the sun reflect off the mud brick walls, listening to the quiet whispers of prayers rising into the sky. This is the world of the Anunnaki, a world of order, of balance, of gods and men intertwined. Now, we turn to Enlil, the god of air, storms, and destiny. He was second only to Anu in power, yet his presence was felt most strongly among humans. The Sumerians believed that Enlil could command the winds, raise the storm clouds, and bring both fortune and calamity. In every city, priests would pray to Enlil before sowing the fields, before building new homes, before crowning kings. His voice was said to echo through the mountains, carried on the wind, felt in the trembling of the earth. Enlil was a god of order and of authority. Yet, he was also unpredictable. His favor could be gentle, his wrath sudden and fierce. To honor him, temples were built with towering steps, each brick laid carefully by human hands, each offering a prayer for his benevolence. Imagine now, standing at the edge of a Sumerian plain, feeling the wind on your face, hearing the rustle of reeds, sensing the immense power of the sky above. That is the world of Enlil, where humans and gods exist together, where each breath of wind carries the memory of the divine. Inanna, Queen of Heaven. Alongside Enlil, there was Inanna, the goddess of love, war, and the stars. She was fierce, radiant, mysterious. Inanna moved through the heavens like a comet, touching lives, altering fates, influencing kings and commoners alike. To the Sumerians, she was both nurturing and dangerous. She could bring prosperity or lead armies into battle. Her temples were filled with music, her altars decorated with gold and lapis lazuli. Priests and priestesses would sing to her, offering flowers and incense, while the people whispered her name, hoping to receive her guidance and protection. As you listen tonight, imagine the flickering torches along the streets of Uruk, the soft chants of worshippers, the scent of burning incense drifting into the night. Inanna watches silently, her gaze touching the hearts of men, shaping destinies without their knowledge. The First Flood. Among the many stories of the Anunnaki, one stands out above the rest: the tale of the Great Flood. Long ago, when humans multiplied across the plains, the Anunnaki saw that mankind had grown disobedient, careless of the divine order. Enlil, in his anger, decided that a great flood would cleanse the land. The rivers would rise, the skies would open, the winds would howl. Only a few, chosen by the gods, would survive. But Enki, ever wise and compassionate, warned a man named Ziusudra, or Utnapishtim, in later stories. He instructed him to build a great boat to preserve animals, seeds, and his family so that life could continue after the waters receded. And so, as the storm clouds gathered, Ziusudra worked quietly, carefully, hammering planks, tying ropes, listening to the distant thunder that announced the will of the gods. Finally, the waters rose. Rain fell for days and nights without pause. Rivers overflowed. Mountains disappeared beneath the waves. Yet the boat, crafted with care and divine guidance, floated above the chaos. And when the waters eventually receded, life began again. Humanity survived, thanks to the wisdom of Enki and the patience of those who listened to the gods. This story would echo through the ages, inspiring myths in Babylon, Assyria, and even beyond. And as you lie quietly tonight, imagine the flood waters slowly calming, the sky clearing, and the first sunlight glimmering over the fields of Sumer. Daily life under the Anunnaki. While the gods moved in grand gestures, the people lived their quiet lives beneath them. Farmers tended barley fields. Fishermen guided their boats along the rivers. Artisans shaped clay and metal, carving symbols that honored the gods. Children learned the ways of writing, counting, and song. Each day began with prayer and offerings. Each night ended with gratitude. And always, the presence of the Anunnaki was felt in the river, the wind, the stars, and the stones. This was life under the gods, slow, deliberate, and sacred. And as your own breath slows, let yourself drift with the people of Sumer across the plains, along the canals, beneath the quiet gaze of the Anunnaki. Soon we will journey further, into the stories of kings and mortals, into the decisions of the Anunnaki, and the myths that shaped all of Mesopotamian civilization. But for now, rest. Breathe, and let the quiet of the plains of Sumer carry you slowly forward. After the flood waters receded, the world was quiet once more. The sun rose gently over the plains of Sumer, casting soft light on the mud-brick cities, the canals shimmering with the first calm currents of the river. Ziusudra, the man saved by Enki's wisdom, stepped from the ark onto the fertile soil. His family, the animals, and the seeds of crops began to repopulate the land. To the Sumerians, this was not simply survival, it was proof of the gods' involvement in human life. Enki, the clever god of water and wisdom, had intervened quietly, guiding mankind to continue teaching patience, ingenuity, and respect. The story reminds us that even in times of great chaos, calm thought and careful planning bring life back to order. Imagine standing on the shore of the river, feeling the wet mud beneath your feet, hearing birds sing softly in the morning air, while the distant mountains still shimmer with the retreating flood. This was the world shaped by the Anunnaki, divine yet intimately present, powerful yet wise. Minor myths of the Anunnaki. Beyond the Great Flood, the Anunnaki were part of countless smaller stories, tales of creation, of disease and healing, of love, betrayal, and revenge. Each whispered to the people through dreams, rituals, and omens. There was Ninurta, a warrior god and protector who could wield storms to defend the innocent or punish the wicked. There was Namtar, a messenger of the underworld who reminded humans of the inevitability of fate. And yet, in each story, the gods acted not only to punish, but to guide and preserve. Their interactions with humans were gentle, subtle, and layered with meaning. Enki often intervened not with force, but with wisdom, showing the importance of cleverness, patience, and observation. The Sumerians understood that life was a balance, the actions of humans and gods intertwined, like threads in a vast tapestry. Imagine the flickering lights of temple torches, reflecting on the walls, the gentle lapping of the river nearby, the soft chants of priests rising into the quiet night. These were not just stories. They were guides for living lessons encoded in myth, gently teaching patience, care, and reverence. The gods and the stars. Above it all, the stars continued their silent watch. The Sumerians believed that the Anunnaki dwelled in the heavens and that their positions in the sky reflected their intentions. The constellations were not merely patterns of light, they were messages, reminders of the divine order. Priests would study the night sky, tracing the paths of stars, noting omens in their movement. Each rising and setting was a whisper from Anu, guiding the Anunnaki, guiding the people of Sumer, guiding the unfolding story of the world. And as you listen tonight, imagine yourself lying on the soft sand of the plains, looking up at countless points of light, feeling the quiet vastness of the universe, feeling the gentle presence of the gods all around you. Life after the flood. With the flood behind them, humans rebuilt their villages, towns, and cities. They planted fields with care, guided by Enki's teachings. They constructed temples to honor the gods, sang hymns to Inanna, whispered prayers to Enlil, and kept balance in all things. Life was slow, deliberate, and sacred. Farmers rose before dawn, tilling the soil and tending the crops. Children learned writing and counting, learning from the wisdom preserved in tablets. Priests recorded the movements of stars, observing the cycles that linked heaven and earth. And all the while, the Anunnaki watched silently, their influence subtle, their presence constant. As your own breath slows, allow yourself to drift along the rivers of Sumer, past the mud brick walls, past the temples and canals, past the gods who quietly shape the destiny of humanity. Let the stillness of the night, the gentle presence of the Anunnaki carry you deeper into sleep as the story stretches onward toward the rise of Babylon, the spread of myths, and the legends that echo across millennia. As centuries passed, the cities of Sumer gave rise to new kingdoms. One of the most famous was Babylon, a city that would grow large and mighty along the banks of the Euphrates. Babylon became a center of culture, trade, and learning. Its walls were tall, built of sun-baked bricks, and its temples rose like mountains above the city. The Anunnaki were still honored, still watched over the people, still whispered through the tablets and hymns. Priests carefully recorded their myths, adapting them to the new city, blending old Sumerian stories with the new Babylonian culture. Imagine walking slowly through the streets of Babylon at dusk. The sun sets behind the towering ziggurats. Torches flicker along the streets. The scent of incense rises from the temples, mixing with the aroma of freshly baked bread. You hear the distant hum of voices, merchants, children, and priests, all moving in quiet harmony with the rhythm of the city. And above it all, the Anunnaki remain observing, guiding, and reminding the people of the fragile balance between humans and the divine. The spread of the myths. As Babylon flourished, the stories of the Anunnaki spread far beyond the city walls. Traders and travelers carried them across the lands into Assyria, Akkad, and even lands far to the east. Each city added its own interpretation, its own emphasis on different gods, yet the essence remained the same. The Anunnaki shaped destiny, taught wisdom, and influenced every aspect of human life. Scholars and priests studied these stories, copying them onto clay tablets, carefully preserving the knowledge for generations. Even as empires rose and fell, the myths endured. Imagine holding one of these clay tablets in your hands, smooth and warm from the kiln, etched with the symbols of creation, destiny, and divine wisdom. You trace the lines slowly, feeling the weight of history and the soft touch of the past, realizing that every story, every symbol is a bridge connecting you to the ancients. Life in Babylon. Life in Babylon was busy yet calm, each day measured by the sun, the moon, and the stars. Farmers worked the fertile plains. Traders moved goods along the rivers. Scribes copied stories and prayers into neat rows of cuneiform. And always, the presence of the Anunnaki was there. Children grew up hearing their names: Anu, Enlil, Enki, Inanna, Ninurta. They learned that the gods were part of every decision, every success, every misfortune. This was not fear, but reverence. Humanity learned patience, humility, and respect for the natural and divine order. And as you listen tonight, imagine walking slowly through Babylon's streets, feeling the soft glow of torches, hearing the quiet flow of the Euphrates, sensing the invisible guidance of the gods all around you. The legends endure. Over time, the Anunnaki became more than Sumerian or Babylonian gods. Their stories were passed down, transformed, and adapted. They influenced myths in Assyria, later reaching the lands of the Hittites and the people of Canaan. Their tales of creation, wisdom, floods, and divine intervention became legends that shaped the imagination of humanity. And even now, thousands of years later, their presence lingers in our stories, reminding us of a time when gods walked among men, when humans listened to the skies, and when myths were a gentle guide through life's uncertainties. As you lie quietly tonight, let your mind drift through the quiet streets of Babylon, past temples and canals, past the stars above, feeling the gentle guidance of the Anunnaki. Soon, we will journey even further, exploring the transformation of these myths into Babylonian, Assyrian, and later Mesopotamian legends, discovering how the stories of the Anunnaki continued to evolve and influence generations of humans. As the centuries passed, the stories of the Anunnaki traveled far and wide, carried by traders, scribes, and travelers across deserts, rivers, and mountains. From Babylon, their influence reached the mighty cities of Assyria, Ashur, Nineveh, and beyond. These cities flourished along the Tigris, their walls tall and sun-baked, their ziggurats rising like mountains above the plains. The priests in these northern kingdoms preserved the wisdom of the Sumerians, recounting the tales of the Anunnaki to kings, warriors, and children alike. They spoke of Anu, the sky father, of Enlil, lord of air and storms, of Enki, god of water and wisdom, and of Inanna, queen of heaven, love and war. Each god had a presence in everyday life, felt in the flowing river, the gentle wind, the rising sun, and the dark night. Imagine walking slowly along the streets of Nineveh at dawn. The air is crisp and still. The mud brick walls of the city glow softly in the morning light. Children run along the paths between temples, carrying small clay tablets copying the names and deeds of the gods. Priests chant softly in the temples, their voices rising and falling, like the gentle waves of the Tigris. Merchants set up their stalls along the river, offering woven cloth, pottery, and spices, pausing to bow their heads in reverence to the invisible eyes of the Anunnaki. And above them, the stars shine faintly in the morning sky, reflecting the eternal presence of the gods who watch all life. The Epic of Gilgamesh, expanded. Among all the tales influenced by the Anunnaki, one stood as a monumental story, the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, was not only a mortal man, but a seeker of wisdom and immortality. His journeys brought him face to face with the divine, including Enlil, Enki, and other Anunnaki. In the epic, the flood story reappears, echoing the tale of Ziusudra, teaching the lesson of mortality, patience, and the importance of divine guidance. Gilgamesh's encounters with the gods reveal a world where humans and gods are intertwined, where destiny is shaped by actions, wisdom, and reverence. Imagine sitting quietly by the river, holding a clay tablet, tracing each cuneiform symbol with your fingertips, feeling the weight of history pressing softly against your hands. Each word carries the quiet power of the Anunnaki, a gentle reminder of the balance between earth and sky, between human effort and divine will. The story of Gilgamesh does not rush. Every line, every pause, every description of the rivers, forests, and mountains is meant to be savored slowly, like a soft melody that lulls the listener deeper into reflection and calm. Life and belief in later Mesopotamia. Extended. Life in Assyria and Babylon was slow, deliberate, and intertwined with the presence of the Anunnaki. Farmers measured their days by the rising sun, the gentle flow of the rivers, and the cycles of the moon and stars. Children learned the ancient names, stories of creation, floods, wisdom, and love. Merchants carried goods along the rivers, offering silent prayers for safe passage. Scribes copied the tablets with great care, the soft clay pressing against their palms, the stylus moving deliberately, ensuring that the words of the gods endured for generations. Temples were alive with ritual. Incense drifted through the corridors. Torches flickered softly, and priests intoned gentle chants that seemed to echo the rhythm of the universe. Each ritual was a slow, deliberate act of devotion, honoring the Anunnaki and maintaining balance in the world. The gods were always present, not in violent displays, but in the quiet currents of life, the subtle guidance of seasons, rivers, and the stars. Observing the stars. The people of Mesopotamia looked up to the heavens and saw the Anunnaki reflected in the stars. Constellations were not merely points of light, they were messages, guidance, and symbols of divine order. Priests carefully studied their movement, noting omens and signs. Each rising and setting was a whisper from Anu, carried on. The winds felt in the flowing rivers and remembered in the chants of the faithful. Imagine lying on the soft earth at night, feeling the cool breeze, tracing constellations with your eyes, sensing the quiet presence of the Anunnaki, who continue to watch and guide, unseen yet intimately connected to life below. The wisdom of the Anunnaki. Over the centuries, the Anunnaki taught lessons of wisdom and patience. Enki, with his cleverness and foresight, guided humanity through challenges, floods, and disputes. Enlil reminded humans of the necessity of order, of respect for the divine and natural laws. Inanna inspired courage, love, and strategy, influencing kings, warriors, and citizens alike. And the people listened, slowly, deliberately, with reverence. They built, they planted, they wrote, each act a reflection of the God's will. Their lives moved at a gentle pace, each breath, each step, each prayer part of the eternal rhythm of the universe. As your own breath grows slower, Let yourself drift alongside the people of Mesopotamia. Feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, the soft earth beneath your feet, the gentle sound of the Tigris and Euphrates flowing quietly. Imagine the temples rising above the city, the torches flickering, the incense curling in the cool morning air. Let the quiet presence of the Anunnaki surround you, carrying you deeper into a slow, calm, and peaceful sleep. As the centuries stretched into millennia, the stories of the Anunnaki did not fade. From the fertile plains of Sumer to the great cities of Babylon and Assyria, their influence persisted, shaping human understanding, culture, and imagination. The Anunnaki were more than gods. They were principles of order, wisdom, and cosmic balance, guiding mortals through the flow of time, teaching patience, humility, and reverence. Imagine standing slowly on the banks of the Euphrates, feeling the soft, cool mud beneath your feet, hearing the gentle rush of the river, the faint whisper of reeds swaying in the wind. Above you, the stars glimmer, faintly, silent witnesses to countless generations who have looked up in wonder, tracing the patterns of the Anunnaki across the night sky. Influence on later civilizations. The influence of the Anunnaki reached far beyond Mesopotamia. Kingdoms and civilizations adapted their stories, blending the myths into new cultures. In Assyria, the Anunnaki were invoked in royal ceremonies, in wars, in harvest festivals, and in the daily lives of citizens who looked to the gods for guidance. In distant lands, traders and travelers shared these tales, integrating them into Hittite, Canaanite, and even early Anatolian traditions. And yet, the core of the stories remained unchanged. The Anunnaki guided destiny, taught wisdom, and influenced humanity's choices. Imagine walking slowly through an Assyrian city, past tall walls, bustling markets, and the gentle flow of the Tigris. Children play quietly, carrying clay tablets, learning the sacred names and stories of the gods. Priests chant softly in temples, the smoke of incense curling through the air, the soft flicker of torchlight reflecting on smooth walls. Merchants pause in their work, offering quiet thanks to the gods for safety and prosperity. The presence of the Anunnaki is felt in every subtle movement, in the flowing rivers, the swaying reeds, the rising sun, and in the soft shadows cast by temple towers. Astronomy and the Anunnaki. Ancient Mesopotamians observed the heavens with meticulous care. The stars, planets, and constellations were more than points of light. They were messages from the Anunnaki, guides for harvests, travel, and ritual. Priests studied the night sky night after night, charting the movement of celestial bodies, recording patterns on clay tablets, and interpreting omens for kings and citizens alike. Imagine lying quietly on a gentle slope outside a city, staring at the countless stars above, feeling the cool breeze brush your skin, the soft rustle of reeds in the background. Each star tells a story. Each constellation whispers a secret, Each night is a reminder of the eternal presence of the Anunnaki watching, guiding, and observing the balance of life below. Daily life and rituals. Daily life in Mesopotamia was intertwined with devotion to the Anunnaki. Farmers rose before dawn, tilled the fertile soil, and planted seeds according to the rhythm of the seasons, all guided by the divine patterns mapped in the stars. Children learned reading, writing, and mathematics, studying the ancient cuneiform tablets handed down by priests. Merchants traveled the rivers, offering prayers to Enki for safe passage and to Inanna for prosperity in trade and relationships. Temples were centers of learning and ritual, filled with the soft glow of torches, the fragrant smoke of incense, and the gentle hum of priests' chants. Each action was deliberate, measured, and intended to honor the gods. Imagine moving slowly through these cities, past towering ziggurats, past the flowing canals, past markets filled with soft voices, feeling the calm, pervasive presence of the Anunnaki guiding all life. Minor legends and mysteries. Beyond the grand myths of creation and floods, the Anunnaki were part of countless minor stories. There were tales of Ninurta, the warrior god defending the innocent, punishing the wicked, his steps echoing across the plains. Stories of Namtar, the messenger of the underworld, reminding humans of fate, mortality, and cosmic justice. Enki's clever interventions appeared repeatedly, solving problems for humans quietly, subtly, encouraging ingenuity, patience, and wisdom. Inanna inspired courage, love, and strategy, guiding kings, influencing battles, and shaping destinies. Imagine the quiet streets, at night, empty canals reflecting torchlight, the soft wind carrying faint chants. Each story a gentle guide for those who listen with care and patience. Philosophical reflections. The Anunnaki myths are more than stories, they are lessons in living. They teach balance between humans and nature, between ambition and humility, between curiosity and respect for the unknown. Enki teaches cleverness and foresight. Enlil teaches order and responsibility. Inanna teaches courage and strategy. The myths encourage observation, reflection, and thoughtful action. Imagine lying quietly, closing your eyes, breathing slowly, feeling the subtle threads connecting earth, sky, and human life, guided gently by the wisdom of the Anunnaki. Modern echoes. Even today, the Anunnaki continue to inspire. Scholars translate clay tablets uncovering wisdom and tales of gods who shaped human destiny. Writers, filmmakers, and artists explore these ancient myths, interpreting them in new ways while honoring the timeless lessons they contain. Imagine sitting in a quiet room, eyes closed, absorbing the gentle presence of these ancient gods, their stories carrying a soft, enduring light across the ages, guiding your imagination, calming your mind, and soothing your soul. The gentle whisper of time. Across thousands of years, the Anunnaki remain a subtle guiding presence. Their myths remind us to observe, to learn, to respect the cycles of nature, and to recognize the invisible threads connecting all life. Imagine drifting along ancient rivers, past silent temples and ziggurats, past scholars, priests, and kings, all of them listening to the quiet guidance of the Anunnaki. Let this calm, eternal presence carry you gently into the slow, restful rhythm of sleep. In the next chapter, we will reflect on the ultimate lessons of the Anunnaki myths, drawing together centuries of stories, wisdom, and human experience, and guiding you fully into deep, restful sleep. As we reach the final chapter of our journey, let us pause and breathe slowly. For thousands of years, the Anunnaki have guided humanity through myth, wisdom, and example. From the earliest Sumerian temples through Babylon, Assyria, and beyond, their presence shaped lives, societies, and the understanding of the cosmos. Imagine standing quietly in the ruins of Uruk, feeling the warm sun on your face, the soft breeze moving gently across your skin, listening to the distant flow of rivers, and sensing the invisible threads that connect humans to the divine. The lessons of the Anunnaki. The stories of the Anunnaki are not just tales of gods and floods. They teach us patience and observation through the wisdom of Enki, order and responsibility through the authority of Enlil, courage, strategy, and compassion through the guidance of Inanna, balance between ambition and humility through their interactions with humanity. These lessons were woven into the daily lives of ancient peoples, and they remain relevant today. Imagine lying quietly, letting each breath echo the calm rhythm of the rivers, the rising and setting sun, the slow movement of the stars above. With each breath, you are connected to the same flow of life that the ancient Mesopotamians experienced, guided by the same eternal principles embodied by the Anunnaki. Daily life as a reflection of myth. Life in ancient Mesopotamia was deliberate, slow, and sacred. Farmers rose with the sun, tending barley, wheat, and other crops, following the rhythms of the rivers and the stars. Merchants traveled carefully along the Euphrates and Tigris, giving thanks to the gods for safe passage and fair trade. Children learned to read and write, copying cuneiform symbols that held stories of gods, floods, wisdom, and love. Priests maintained temples, chanting softly, letting incense curl through the air, performing rituals that connected the earth with the heavens. Every action, every step, every word was a meditation, a reflection of the divine order, a quiet tribute to the Anunnaki. Minor myths and subtle guidance. Beyond the grand floods and epics, there were countless minor myths. Tales of Ninurta, the protector of Namtar, the messenger of fate, and of subtle interventions by Enki taught humans to think carefully, act wisely, and respect the unseen. Inanna's influence reminded mortals of love, courage, and the delicate balance of human and divine. Imagine walking slowly at night along a quiet canal, torchlight flickering softly, the air filled with gentle incense, each story a whisper guiding your mind and soul toward peace. Observing the heavens. The Anunnaki were always reflected in the night sky. Constellations, planets, and celestial events were interpreted as guidance for agriculture, law, and governance. Priests charted the heavens carefully, noting omens, cycles, and divine messages. Imagine lying on a soft slope outside the city, the night sky above you vast and infinite, stars shimmering like distant eyes, each one a gentle reminder of the Anunnaki's enduring presence. Modern echoes of ancient wisdom. Even in our time, the stories of the Anunnaki inspire reflection. Scholars translate tablets, storytellers recreate their tales, and the wisdom of Enki, Enlil, and Inanna continues to guide imagination and thought. Imagine closing your eyes, letting these stories wash over you slowly. The soft cadence of ancient voices echoing through your mind, each breath, each pause, each reflection deepening your calm. A meditative closing. As we end this journey, let your mind drift through the rivers, canals, and streets of ancient Mesopotamia. Picture the ziggurats rising against the dawn, the soft flicker of torches along temple walls, the gentle flow of the Euphrates and Tigris. Feel the presence of the Anunnaki, subtle, silent, and eternal. With each slow breath, allow your body to relax further, your mind to calm, and your consciousness to float gently into the quiet, deep rest of sleep. The stories of the Anunnaki, their wisdom, and their enduring presence will accompany you softly into dreams, like a gentle river flowing endlessly through time. Sleep now. Drift slowly. Let the calm presence of the Anunnaki guide you deeper into the gentle, peaceful rhythm of rest.